Okay, so now the second part of this video is alternate use for this dye, which I love. I love, love, love when we have alternate uses for our dyes because that makes them that much more valuable and useful. Of course, when we get these dyes, I don't know about anybody else, but I get excited just to see how many different ways I can use it. Okay, so we did have a dye called Tasteful Trim, and I was sad when they took it away because, you know, that just gave us some different decorative things we could do with our dye and trim. So now we have this dye, and I came up with some different trim ideas we can use with it. So of course we can use just this zigzag piece here as a zigzag edge, and all we need to do is break these pieces off here, and then we could use this as a decorative edge. But here is where we can get creative. Let me bring all this stuff in here. Okay, so before I start cutting the scrap pieces, I'm going to give you a sneak peek of all of the different trim edges we can get with just those scraps. If you remember the Tasteful Trim dye and are like me who was unable to get it before it was discontinued, you will remember, or you may not, but I'll tell you that they had this zigzag. They had a scallop edge, which was the reverse of this, so that's the only thing that we're missing here. But we have this scalloped edge right here. So I will also bring in this piece here, and if you recognize this, I used to call that the cake edging, the piped edge that was on the Tasteful Trim dye. And then you can easily see that by layering the pieces that you could actually build backgrounds for your projects or pages. And this wave here was also one of the pieces on the Tasteful Trim dye. So if you didn't get a chance to get that dye, you're in luck, because we still have this one, and you can still get all of the same elements from this dye that you did from the other. So the only thing is that we're limited to the size that we can do, since we're going to be cutting just the edge. It can only be the same size as the scraps that were cut from the excess of this center piece. So let me just grab a piece here. Got my bottom plate down, my die. The helpful hint that I want to tell you is to have some Scotch tape handy, because taping the pieces down helps keep them straight and keep them from shifting when they go through the big shots. So that way it'll keep your pieces nice and straight. Cut me a few pieces here. Now I have little pieces of tape all over. Alright, so the extra pieces we had, I called the rickrack edge. It doesn't matter if you face the point toward the center of the die or towards the outer edge. It's completely up to you, whichever you feel more comfortable having it, because it all depends on how far you move it across the top edge as to whether you're going to get a thin chevron or the wider chevron. So that's just plain and plain and simple cut. I just turn it upwards. The only thing is to, I keep the top point, and since I'm using this white cardstock, it's kind of getting drowned out with this bad lighting that I have here. Let me turn it around. So I have my rickrack edge pointing the outer edge, pointing towards the outer edge of the die, and just making sure that the bottom edge is even with or just below the points on the die. I center it inside the cutting area and then just tape it down. And you just want to make sure it's straight and pull tight. And then we can actually load two pieces at one time. I'm going to steal my piece back from over here. Now this one does matter which way you put the scalloped. I wrote myself a cheat note here with black permanent marker. Okay, so let's take my advice. Wavy edge to the top, making sure the bottom of the contact paper guide is covered, and centered on the inside of the cutting area. And then we'll just run that through. Alright, so just making that one pass, we have the smaller triangle piece here, a large chevron cut here, and of course you could position it back on there and make it into two smaller pieces, or leave it larger and then just get another sectioning and cut some smaller pieces. And then on this end here we have the scalloped edge, and then I'm not sure what to call this. I'm going to say double inverted scallop piece. I think it looks kind of like the tattoo art. Alright, so that's 4 pieces right there. Now you could play around with those and adjust the position of them to make them smaller or larger. Okay, so there are 2 more trim pieces that I want to show you. This time again we're going to be using the rickrack edge. And let's see, got me some more tape there. And also I have cut a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock, 1 inch in width. So all of the other pieces, all of the other trim pieces I showed you were just all of the scraps that you may have had when cutting down your 6 by 12 pieces. But you may also have some extra scraps just laying around that you might be able to use. But this particular trim requires a straight piece, so that may be one that you will have to cut down or one that you have hanging around. Alright, so this rickrack will be facing the middle of the die, and what we're going to do is line it up in between the points. So let me tape this here and I will bring it closer so you will get a better idea of what. Alright, so what I have done, okay, so the points for the top piece are alternating with the points that are on the contact paper, so in between one another. Let's see, my tape is not sticky anymore on this end. Let's see if I can get another piece. Alright, so this other side, what we want to do is cover the top portion of the curved piece here. Let me get something that might contrast so you can see. So cover the top scallop edge here. Just make sure that is covered up. And you're probably going to just lift it up and just make sure that it is covered, but you don't want to waste half of your paper going too high above it, but you have a little bit of wiggle room here. Alright, and another piece of tape. I think I'm a tapeaholic. Alright, so let's run these pieces through. Alright, so the rickrack edge that I've been calling it, now we have a sawtooth border. That is the sawtooth trim. And now this piece is the piece that I'm really excited about. So now we have cut out just the normal scalloped edge here, and what we're going to do now is turn it around, pop out all these extra pieces here, and what we need to do is to tape the inside portion here. Let's see if I get close enough. The inner portion here of the scallop. So we're going to line up the inner portion of this part of the scallop with the bottom portion of this scallop here. I'm going to zoom in, not out. Okay, so maybe you can see what I'm doing. Right on the line, or just above it, just not below it. Unless you want a center line. Now, of course you can do that, and that will give you another look. But for right now, what I'm going for is no inner line. So the trick is to pull this tight and make sure it's straight. And sometimes you might, since it is a long piece and it might tend to bow, you can get another piece of tape and tape your center piece down. Alright, so let's run this through one more time. And voila, we get this really cool piece here. Well, let's see, you can't even see. Let me back up. Hold up. Well, here. You can see it here. So we get this really cool piece. Let me put it on the white board here. Now, sometimes if it wasn't just straight, you'll have a few stray little lines in the center. And all you need to do is just snip them right out. Actually, you can pull them out. But if you want to be neater, just snip them with your snips. I'm not going to take the time to do that, but let me put that one right up here. You get that really cool piece right there. So I am super excited about all of the different trim pieces that this die will make. It just gives having the die added value by expanding the uses for the die. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial and have learned something new. And And now if you are super excited and interested in getting this die, I will have a link below this video in the description bar that will make it super easy for you to do. Alright friends, till next time, happy crafting. Thanks for watching. Bye now.